Imagine two people waking up on the exact same morning. Both receive bad news before breakfast. Both face unexpected problems at work. Both get stuck in traffic on the way home. Yet by the end of the day, one of them is emotionally exhausted, convinced that life is unfair, while the other still manages to smile, laugh with friends, and go to bed feeling grateful. The same day, and the same challenges. Two completely different experiences. Why? Is one person simply luckier? Were they born happier? Or is there something happening deep inside the brain that most of us never notice? For centuries, philosophers believed happiness was a mystery, something that belonged only to the fortunate. Today, modern neuroscience tells a very different story. Happiness isn't an accident. It isn't a personality trait reserved for a lucky few, and it certainly isn't the result of having a perfect life. In reality, happiness is one of the most misunderstood experiences in human psychology. Most people spend their lives chasing it without ever understanding how it actually works. Think back to the happiest moment you've ever experienced. Perhaps it was graduating from school, getting your dream job, buying your first car, falling in love, getting married, or achieving a goal you had worked toward for years. Remember how incredible it felt? Now ask yourself another question. How long did that feeling last? Days? Weeks? Maybe a few months? Eventually, that extraordinary moment became ordinary. The excitement faded, life returned to normal, and your brain quietly began searching for the next thing that might make you happy. This happens to almost everyone, and the reason is hidden inside the way the human brain evolved. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors lived in a world filled with uncertainty. Every day brought new dangers, unpredictable weather, scarce food, and life-threatening predators. If the human brain became completely satisfied after one success, people would stop exploring, stop hunting, stop improving, and eventually stop surviving. Evolution solved this problem by designing a brain that never stays satisfied for very long. The moment one goal is achieved, another appears. The moment one problem disappears, the brain begins searching for the next challenge. This constant desire for more wasn't a flaw. It was one of humanity's greatest survival advantages. Without it, civilization might never have existed. But in the modern world, this ancient system creates a strange illusion. It convinces us that happiness is always waiting somewhere in the future. Many people believe they will finally be happy when they earn more money, buy a bigger house, find the perfect relationship, lose weight, become famous, or achieve another milestone. But once they arrive, something unexpected happens. Their brain quickly adapts to the new reality and starts chasing another dream. Psychologists call this asterisk hedonic adaptation, asterisk. And it explains why even people who seem to have everything often continue searching for something they cannot describe. The destination keeps changing because the brain was never designed to remain satisfied. It was designed to keep moving. But if the brain naturally pushes us toward dissatisfaction, why do some people still seem genuinely happy most of the time? The answer begins with attention. Every second, your brain receives millions of pieces of information from the world around you. Yet it can consciously process only a tiny fraction of them. This means your brain must constantly decide what deserves your attention. Imagine standing in a beautiful garden. Flowers are blooming, birds are singing, sunlight filters through the trees, yet in one corner, a few weeds have begun to grow. One person notices only the weeds and complains that the garden is ruined. Another notices the flowers, the fragrance, the colors, and the peaceful atmosphere. Neither person is lying. They are simply paying attention to different parts of the same reality. Your life works exactly the same way. Every day contains problems and blessings. The question is not whether both exist. The question is which one your brain has learned to notice first. Science calls this selective attention, and it shapes almost every emotional experience you have. Unfortunately, the brain comes with a built-in negativity bias. Negative events capture your attention faster than positive ones because for our ancestors, ignoring danger could mean death. Missing a beautiful sunset had no survival cost, but missing a predator hiding in the bushes could be fatal. That ancient survival system is still active today. It's why one critical comment can hurt more than 20 compliments, why embarrassing memories stay with you for years, and why bad news spreads faster than good news. Your brain isn't trying to make you miserable, simply following survival rules written thousands of years ago. However, people who seem consistently happy have often trained their brains to balance this negativity bias. They don't ignore problems or pretend life is perfect. Instead, they deliberately notice moments of beauty, kindness, progress, and gratitude alongside life's difficulties. Over time, this changes the brain itself. Thanks to a remarkable ability called neuroplasticity, the brain constantly rewires itself according to repeated experiences. Every time you practice gratitude, optimism, forgiveness, or compassion, you strengthen the neural pathways connected to those emotions. Just as exercising a muscle makes it stronger, repeatedly focusing on healthier patterns gradually changes how your brain interprets the world. Perhaps the biggest misconception about happy people is that they never experience sadness, anxiety, or failure. Nothing could be further from the truth. Happy people lose loved ones, make mistakes, face rejection, struggle financially, and experience heartbreak just like everyone else. The difference isn't that they avoid pain. The difference is how they explain pain to themselves. Instead of believing that one bad moment defines their entire life, they see difficulties as temporary chapters rather than permanent identities. They understand that emotions are like weather. Some days are sunny, some are stormy. But no storm lasts forever. This leads us to one of the most important discoveries in psychology. Happiness is not simply about what happens to you. It is about how your brain interprets what happens to you. Two people can experience the exact same event and create completely different emotional realities because their minds tell different stories. One story creates hope. The other creates despair. The event may be identical, but the meaning assigned to it changes everything. But if happiness depends so much on the stories your brain creates, an even bigger question appears. Can those stories be changed? Overthinking actually train their brain to become happier? Or are we forever limited by the way our minds were originally wired? Modern neuroscience has uncovered an answer that is more hopeful than anyone once imagined. And understanding it could completely change the way you think about happiness for the rest of your life. Asterisk. Imagine you have two gardens. Both receive the same sunlight, the same rain, the same soil. Yet one garden is filled with colorful flowers, while the other is overrun with weeds. The difference isn't nature, it's what was cared for every single day. Your brain works the same way. Happiness isn't created in one extraordinary moment. It's built quietly, thought by thought. Habit, it's day after day. This is where science begins to reveal something extraordinary. For many years, scientists believed the adult brain was mostly fixed. They thought our personality, emotional patterns, and level of happiness were largely determined early in life. But modern neuroscience completely changed that belief. Researchers discovered something called neuroplasticity. The brain's incredible ability to reorganize itself by creating new neural pathways throughout life. In simple words, the brain is constantly changing based on what you repeatedly think, feel, and do. Every repeated experience strengthens certain connections between brain cells. The pathways you use most become stronger, while the ones you ignore gradually weaken. This means happiness isn't just an emotion you experience, it's also a skill your brain can practice. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. The first time feels awkward. You lose balance. You make mistakes. But after enough practice, riding becomes automatic. The same thing happens with your emotional habits. If you constantly complain, compare yourself with others, and expect disappointment, your brain becomes incredibly efficient at producing those emotions. But if you regularly practice gratitude, optimism, compassion, and emotional awareness, your brain slowly becomes more efficient at producing those feelings instead. You're not pretending life is perfect. You're training your attention to notice more than just what's wrong. Now let's talk about something almost everyone misunderstands: dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the happiness chemical. It isn't. Dopamine is better described as the motivation chemical. It pushes you to chase rewards. It tells your brain, keep going. Something exciting might be waiting. Thousands of years ago, This helped humans search for food, discover new places, and survive harsh environments. Today, that same system is constantly activated by smartphones, social media, online shopping, video games, and endless notifications. Every swipe promises something new. Every notification hints at another reward. The result is that many people spend their lives chasing excitement instead of building lasting happiness. Excitement fades quickly. Peace lasts much longer. This is why some people seem happier than others. They don't confuse stimulation with fulfillment. They understand that buying something new, receiving hundreds of likes, or achieving another goal creates only temporary excitement.
Walking in nature, reading a good book, or simply enjoying a quiet evening without constantly searching for the next source of entertainment. Their brains aren't addicted to constant excitement because they've learned to appreciate calm. Another powerful difference is how happy people talk to themselves. Imagine two students who both fail the same exam. One says, "I'm a failure. I'll never succeed." The other says, "I wasn't prepared this time. I'll learn from this and do better next time." The event is identical. The internal conversation is completely different. Your brain listens carefully to the words you repeat. If you constantly criticize yourself, your nervous system begins treating those thoughts as reality. But if your inner voice becomes more balanced, patient, and encouraging, your brain gradually feels safer. Safety allows learning. Fear often blocks it. Then there's the fascinating role of serotonin and oxytocin, unlike dopamine, which motivates you to chase. Serotonin is associated with feelings of confidence, stability, and emotional well-being. Oxytocin strengthens trust, love, and social connection. Every genuine hug, meaningful conversation, act of kindness, or moment of belonging sends powerful signals to your brain that you're safe. That's one reason loneliness can feel so painful. The human brain evolved inside close-knit communities. It still expects connection because, for most of history, connection meant survival. Scientists have also discovered something called the hedonic treadmill. Imagine buying your dream car. At first, the excitement fades and the car simply becomes normal. Then your brain starts searching for the next upgrade. This pattern doesn't happen because you're ungrateful. It happens because the brain naturally adapts to positive experiences. This adaptation once encouraged our ancestors to keep improving their chances of survival. Today, however, it often traps us in an endless cycle of wanting more without appreciating what we already have. Interestingly, people who appear happiest have learned to step off this treadmill. They intentionally celebrate small victories. They pause to appreciate ordinary moments. They don't wait for life-changing events to feel grateful. They notice a beautiful sunset, a warm cup of coffee, a meaningful conversation, or a peaceful walk. These moments seem ordinary, but they repeatedly remind the brain that life contains beauty even on average days. Perhaps the greatest misconception about happiness is that it means feeling good all the time. It doesn't. Real happiness includes sadness. It includes uncertainty. It includes loss, failure, disappointment. They simply don't allow painful moments to define their entire identity. They understand that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. So when you meet someone who always seems happy, you may actually be meeting someone who has quietly trained their brain for years. They still experience fear. They still have bad days. They still struggle. The difference is that they have developed habits that help their minds recover instead of remaining trapped. They don't possess magical brains. They possess practiced brains. But one final mystery remains. If the brain can truly be trained for greater happiness, why do so many intelligent, successful, and wealthy people still feel empty inside? The answer has nothing to do with money, success, or intelligence. It has everything to do with meaning, and that is where the final chapter of this journey begins. Imagine that someone gives you everything you've ever wanted, the perfect house, unlimited money. Now, imagine living that life for the next 10 years. Most people instinctively answer yes, but decades of psychological research suggest something very different. The human brain has an extraordinary ability to adapt. What once felt extraordinary slowly becomes ordinary. The dream house becomes just another home. The dream job becomes another routine. This remarkable ability helped our ancestors survive changing environments, but in the modern world it often tricks us into believing that happiness is always one achievement away. We keep climbing mountains only to discover that our minds have already started looking at the next one. This is why some of the wealthiest, most successful, and most famous people in the world still struggle with anxiety. Researchers studying long-term happiness discovered something fascinating. The happiest people don't necessarily experience more pleasure than everyone else. Instead, they experience more meaning. Pleasure and happiness are often confused, but they are not the same thing. Pleasure is exciting, fast, and temporary. It comes from buying something new, eating your favorite food, winning a game, or receiving compliments. Happiness is quieter. It grows from meaningful relationships, personal growth, contribution, purpose, and feeling connected to something larger than yourself. Pleasure asks, "What can I get?" Meaning asks, "What can I give?" Pleasure disappears quickly. Meaning continues to grow with time. Think about the moments that stay in your memory for years. They usually aren't the moments when you bought a new phone or received a paycheck. They're the conversations that changed your life. The people who stood beside you during difficult times, the family dinners, the unexpected acts of kindness, the challenges you overcame, and the memories you created with those you love. Your brain remembers these moments because they satisfy something much deeper than excitement. They satisfy the human need for connection and purpose.
Another habit shared by people who seem consistently happy is that they stop fighting every negative emotion. This may sound strange, but trying to avoid sadness often creates even more suffering. Imagine standing in the ocean while a wave approaches. If you try to stop the wave with your hands, it knocks you down. But if you learn to move with it, the wave passes naturally. Emotions work in much the same way. Fear, sadness, disappointment, and frustration are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are normal signals produced by a healthy human brain. Happy people understand that emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. Instead of saying, "I am anxious," they learn to think, "I'm experiencing anxiety right now." That small difference creates emotional distance. It reminds the brain that feelings change, but identity remains. Modern neuroscience also reveals that happiness grows through repetition rather than intensity. Many people wait for one life-changing event to transform everything. They believe happiness will finally arrive after a promotion, marriage, vacation, or financial breakthrough. But the brain doesn't work that way. It is shaped by thousands of small experiences repeated over time. A few minutes of gratitude each day, regular exercise, quality sleep, meaningful conversations, moments in nature, acts of generosity, and quiet reflection may seem ordinary, but together they slowly reshape the brain. Like drops of water carving a path through stone, small daily habits eventually produce extraordinary changes. Perhaps the most powerful discovery of all is that the brain listens carefully to the story you repeat about your life. Every experience is filtered through interpretation. One person loses a job and believes life has ended. Another loses the same job and believes a new chapter is beginning. One person sees failure as proof of weakness. Another sees it as evidence of growth. The event remains the same, but the meaning changes completely. Your brain does not simply respond to reality. It responds to the meaning you assign to reality. This is why two people can live almost identical lives while experiencing completely different levels of happiness. But there's one final truth that many people spend their entire lives overlooking. Happiness is not a destination waiting at the end of success. It is a way of traveling. If you cannot appreciate today, tomorrow will never be enough. If your mind is always waiting for the next achievement before allowing itself to feel grateful, you will unknowingly postpone happiness for the rest of your life. The happiest people understand that life is not built from extraordinary moments alone. It is built from ordinary moments that receive extraordinary attention. So, why do some people always seem happy? The answer isn't that they have easier lives or fewer problems. Science tells us that they have trained their brains differently. They practice gratitude even when life isn't perfect. They value relationships over possessions. They seek meaning instead of constant excitement. They allow emotions to come and go without becoming trapped inside them. They understand that the brain naturally looks for what's wrong, so they intentionally remind it of what's right. And perhaps most importantly, they stop chasing happiness as if it were somewhere else. They begin creating it where they already are. The next time you meet someone who seems genuinely happy, don't assume they were simply born that way. You may be looking at someone who has spent years quietly training their mind. One thought, one habit, and one choice at a time. Their secret isn't perfect circumstances. Their secret is understanding the incredible machine inside their head, because happiness isn't hidden somewhere in the future. It isn't waiting inside a bigger house, a better job, or a higher salary. It begins the moment you stop asking, "When will I finally be happy?" and start asking, "How can I train my brain to appreciate the life I'm living today?" That single question has the power to change everything. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson science has given us. Your brain may be wired by evolution, influenced by genetics, and shaped by experience, but it is never completely fixed. Every day, with every thought you repeat and every habit you practice, you are teaching your brain how to experience the world. In the end, lasting happiness is not something you find. It is something you build. One decision, one perspective, and one meaningful moment at a time. Thank you for watching. If this documentary helped you see happiness from a completely new perspective, share it with someone who believes happiness is impossible to find. Because sometimes the greatest discovery isn't learning something new, it's finally understanding the incredible mind you've had all along.